Big news coming up, the RTX 4060 Ti, the 16GB version, is coming out on July 18th. Based on the reviews and everything I've seen of the 4060 Ti, this other card's gonna have kind of a rough launch, and specs are exactly the same as the 4060 Ti 8GB version. Yeah, except for that VRAM capacity. But is this VRAM even going to matter, because it's still on a 128-bit bus with basically the same amount of memory bandwidth, 288GB per second. On top of that, it's gonna cost $500 instead of $400, so it's gonna make that price to performance that we talked about pretty bad. And people already weren't buying the 4060 Ti 8GB. How is this gonna fare for the next one? Oh my god. And on the topic of, you know, people not buying 4060 GPUs, the actual 4060, the non-Ti one, also isn't selling that well. This is a little bit of an older article. This is still at the end of June. They said that the 4070 had slower run rate compared to other graphics cards and managed to shift over 300 units within hours of following after its official launch. And the 4060 has really only sold around 10 units of GPUs. Oh my god, dude, that is so low, for real. Especially for a card that is the 60 class, like, that's supposed to be exciting for a lot of people. It's in general not looking so well, and that's why in Europe we've seen that the 4060 has dropped in price by about 6%. Even Jay, somebody who usually covers Nvidia's back, so I'm not gonna lie, he kind of came out and even said, hey, the 4060 is the strongest argument to buy AMD. And the card that he recommended in this video is a 6700 XT, okay? Because it has 12GB of VRAM, it outperforms the 4060 consistently, and it was going for only $310. And when I checked on this yesterday, there wasn't a model that was going for 310 or even 320. It seems like this advice to buy AMD is finally working on the community. These GPUs, the 6700 XT that is very competitive at this price point and compelling because of its 12GB frame buffer, is starting to sell out. And people are snatching this up. Finally. Okay, like people actually are buying AMD over Nvidia right now, because just yesterday the Sapphire Pulse one was $340. This deal is on Newegg, and you can get it for $320 on Newegg with a new discount code or something like that. They just put this on sale as of like a day later of filming from my other video. They might keep discounting ones until they completely sell out of all of their product. We'll just kind of have to see how that goes in the grand scheme of things, because it doesn't exactly like applicable to every single AMD graphics card. The 6650 XT isn't really selling out, or there's just a lot of stock of it, which I'm not 100% sure. The 6800 XT hasn't really changed in price all that significantly, but this is in a higher price bracket. This is actually going to be competing with the 4060 Ti 16GB that I just talked about earlier. And you pull up the 4060 Ti 8GB on Tech Power Up here next to like a 2080 Ti and a 3070 somewhere in there. And you can see that the 6800 XT is 32% faster than the 4060 Ti. So the 16GB 4060 Ti is going to cost this amount. And it's going to be competing with the 6800 XT, and it's going to be the same. It's going to be this exact same situation with 16GB of VRAM. They both have that. And the 6800 XT has faster VRAM because it has a 256-bit bus instead of the 128-bit bus on the 4060 Ti. So this is, I'm already scared for the launch of the 4060 Ti 16GB, I'm just saying. But yeah, that advice to buy AMD over Nvidia seems to be working. And a part of me does think that this is exactly what AMD wants. That's the reason they've been dropping the price on their cards, is this last generation product needs to sell. And then they can start to release their 7000 series that I don't think is going to be that much better than last gen. They've only released a 7900 XT and a 7600. So once their old product sells out, and we have seen cards like the 6800, the non-XT version. There's only one card available for the 6800 non-XT. But once their old product sells out, I think they might start releasing their 7000 series graphics cards down the product stack instead of leaving that giant gap between the 7600 and the 7900 XT. I don't think it's going to stay like that. I just don't think their 7000 series is going to be that competitive. And you can check out a video I made on that and a more in-depth coverage. But yeah, other than just like experimenting with dropping down prices on graphics cards like AMD is, there are also some companies that are doing interesting things with releasing graphics cards with different kinds of features. So Asus is wasting no PCIe lanes. It introduces a GPU with SSDs. So as you can see right here, there's an NVMe SSD built into your GPU. Technically speaking, the 4060 Ti, as we saw in these specs here, only uses 8 lanes of PCIe Gen 4, but we have 16 lanes of PCIe Gen 4 available. What Asus is doing here is that they're using those extra lanes to put an SSD on your graphics card, add like 2 to 4 terabytes of storage onto your GPU, and then you don't have to waste another PCIe slot on your motherboard trying to put an NVMe drive somewhere else in your system. Or if you have a system that doesn't support that many NVMe drives, this might be actually a good addition for you there, because you know, as PCIe gets faster and faster, there's kind of 2 ways to look at PCIe. One is that you can put higher bandwidth devices in a PCIe Gen 4 or Gen 5 slot because the maximum bandwidth is just greater and greater. Or you can use less lanes of PCIe to get the same amount of speed. Yeah, this is basically what that is. It's using less bandwidth on the GPU in total and then putting some of that bandwidth into the SSD instead. And I think this is a really good use of efficiency and stuff. And that gets me really excited. Direct storage, okay? We have had, what, 1 or 2 games on PC that have direct storage. I think it's just Forspoken and maybe one other game. And not many people really played Forspoken. It wasn't. With an SSD on the GPU, this gets my mind running. What if your system could store part of the game, the part that the GPU needs access to, and then there's some kind of protocol that has it communicate to your CPU, and then you could use direct storage with the SSD that's on the GPU physically, like this. So you could have the assets and stuff for the game that the CPU doesn't need to talk to or whatever. That is just directly on the GPU, and then you don't need to waste any of the bandwidth throughout your system in order to do that. So direct storage, if this becomes a thing that's popular, this would be really convoluted, complicated to integrate from a software perspective. But if this becomes popular to put SSDs on your GPUs, we could see direct storage becoming a real thing in the future, or a more convenient way to do it. If this becomes a thing, I'm really excited for it. What's kind of an odd thing, I don't know to be excited for this or not. So AMD is releasing a new CPU on last generation AM5, so the 5600 X3D. As you guys know, the 5800 X3D was already released on AM4. This CPU was extremely fast for the time, and it still holds up really well today. If you're still on AM4, like even me personally, I'm thinking about, because sometimes I get CPU bottlenecked in games testing with an RTX 3080. I've been thinking about maybe upgrading to a 5800 X3D, but I'm deciding if I want to do that or if I just want to go all the way up to AM5. I'm not 100% sure, but the 5800 X3D isn't a bad deal if you're still on AM4 and you want to get the best gaming CPU possible. That's why it's odd, is if should you be excited for the 5600 X3D. So this is a 6-core version of the 5800 X3D. And why is it also releasing so late into the CPU cycle? Because AM4 was pretty much done and AM5 is already released. And why are they releasing another chip on last gen product? Is this gonna be a good value CPU? I do think most of the time it's gonna be about as fast as the 5800 X3D. Most games won't use all 8 cores on the 800 X3D. So having 6 would probably be enough in most cases. And I think the 5600 XT will match up in gaming performance, but you won't have much overhead. Like if you want to run programs in the background, the 6 cores will definitely limit you a little bit. And looking into the forward future things might limit you even more. And this is going to be launching at $230. The 5800 X3D is going for about $330. So you'll be paying $100 less for getting, dude, this is same day shipping. Oh my God, that's crazy. You'll be paying about $100 less for the 5600 XT. And I think in most cases, you're going to get probably about 90% the gaming performance. So logically, it's going to be a good deal at that price point. But the problem is this isn't going to be available everywhere because the Micro Center is going to have an exclusive launch for this product. And anybody who's outside of the US, there's no Micro Center stores there. And across the US, there's actually only 25 Micro Centers. So there's 50 states and not every state even has one. And then states are pretty big for anybody who's outside of the US. Some states have multiple, and it can be a very long drive for a lot of people to get this. For me personally, I can actually get to a Micro Center. It's not that far away. And this is because they don't have that many of these products. As I said earlier, the 5800X3D didn't have a lot of waste, and they're only using the waste from that chip to make these ones. When it comes down to it, they have a limited launch, so they just chose to launch it at Micro Center. For that reason, I think these are going to sell out. I don't think AMD is going to have a problem with it. And it is particularly enticing at only $230 to get the performance of basically a 5800X3D. To get that, say like you're coming from like 1st gen Ryzen, 2nd gen Ryzen, even 3rd gen Ryzen, that is a huge performance uplift for gaming. So I don't think they're going to have a problem selling these by any means. And this chip is going to be releasing tomorrow at Micro Center. Yes, I lost my sleeves and I lost some of my hair as well, but I need to give a little update because as I'm going to upload this video here, the Gamers Nexus has released a video about the 5600X3D a day before it actually launches. It seems to be like a little bit slower than the 5800X3D, but you're paying $100 less for it. And when you're talking about $200 to $300, that proportionally is a big jump. Like it's like 50% more expensive to go to the 800X3D, especially if you don't have something like a 4090 that can actually CPU bottleneck your system here. Upgrading to this as like an end game for AM4, a send off for it, it's actually good. So if you can get your hands on it, 6 cores, 12 threads, has a ton of Vcache. It gets beat out in productivity. It's not just the 6 cores, but if you were to get a 7600X, which is actually a similar price, you get throttled because of that Vcache. Its clock speeds can't go as fast, and that's just basically the difference with it. So thanks, Steve, and I'll link that video in the description for if you want to check that out a little bit more in depth. Yeah, let's just get back into it. And this pretty interesting thing to say.
So this is pretty peculiar because the launch is limited not just to a country or a region, but to a specific store. And for those of you who don't live in the US, Micro Center, despite all the sort of YouTube dominance that it has, is really not that common still. It's got a good amount of locations, but the closest one to us, and we're...
Oh, I like to say, I like Micro Center. It's a good time in there. There's so much tech. It's like tech heaven. You walk in, you just you just take it all in, man. It's beautiful. If you want like an idea of how Micro Center works, if you go to the back of the store, they put a lot of their more expensive stuff in the back that you would probably go to Micro Center to actually get. And they're actually very competitively priced with online retailers and stuff. Sometimes they could have better deals than online retailers. Micro Center has really good prices. If you want to buy something, say like I bought a laptop at Micro Center, you'll have an employee that helps you pick one out. They basically have a salesman, and those salesmen make commission on what you buy. So they make a little bit of extra money if they get a sale. So they'll have you like sign a thing and say that, hey, this person got me to buy it, stuff like that. So if you go into Micro Center to buy a new chip, 5600X3D, that's kind of what it's going to be like. And then they put all their products in the back of the store because they want you to walk through the store in order to see all the other products that they actually make better margins on, that they make their money on. So you might buy a couple of little things when you walk into a Micro Center. That's kind of the idea of their sales philosophy and stuff like that. And overall, I think it's a really good store. I bought a few things from Micro Center, and I've been happy with them every time I've went. But if you're lucky enough to even be able to get to a Micro Center, that is
kind of in a tech hub, is 5 hours away, just to give you an idea. So this is extremely limited in launch. It's not even really just the US, it's like specific areas within driving range of a store. So we learned from the two companies that AMD has been accumulating defective silicon for 5800X3D parts for some time now. Now, at face value, what this means effectively is that their options were throw away the silicon for an aging platform that doesn't have that much marketing power behind it anymore, and we can't sell globally, or sell it in a limited capacity.
That's one of the other benefits of launching this chip. They're not throwing it out. People are still going to be able to buy it, and they're making use and salvaging a product that otherwise would have just been tossed. So there is some respect for that with AMD, and I don't think their margins are going to be that crazy on this product. Probably salvaging it costs quite a bit of development time, especially for a very limited run product. We'll see how it goes. These are going to be very rare CPUs, so if you can get your hands on one of these for a collector at some point in the future, I just know they're going to be worth a lot because this is going to be extremely rare. Extremely rare. I don't even know how many they're making, but it can't be many, dude. So in other CPU news from AMD, if you are interested in Starfield, AMD 7000 CPUs, so their latest AM5 ones, not the 5600 X3D that we're just talking about. They're going to be bundling Starfield with it. And this is a game that I think quite a few people are hyped for. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it looks decently cool. And yeah, if you're interested in this game and you're also interested in upgrading your CPU platform around that time, you're going to get a nice little bonus to kick you into an upgrade. Also, Starfield is going to be available on Xbox Game Pass day one because Microsoft owns Bethesda. The last thing I want to talk about here is, you guys remember the whole Gigabyte situation where the graphics cards were cracking? And I think they're still cracking. I don't think anything really changed. It's because the PCBs are just weaker than the other companies' PCBs. Crack sometimes, and basically these brick your cards. I wanted to see if there was an update on this, and it doesn't seem like there is. It seems like Gigabyte is sticking to their guns and saying that the warranty does not cover this problem. And maybe they're claiming that as user error, that their warranty just doesn't cover their GPUs cracking. Or I thought that maybe the company would have gone back on that after seeing so many people having this issue, but possibly the idea of Gigabyte not having the margins to take the hit of straight up replacing these GPUs, because that's what they'd have to do. They might not have the stock to do something like that. Theirs are cracking on 3000 series Ampere GPUs, or they might not have the money to do so either. Yeah, just update on the Gigabyte situation. Definitely doesn't make them look all that good in the grand scheme of things. But some cool things today though, other than, you know, the 4060 and 4060 Ti and the 16 gigabyte one, those aren't exciting. But it's interesting to see that people are buying AMD instead. And then on top of that, we see some really cool tech going on with some SSDs on your GPUs. I think that has a lot of potential in the future. Even if it doesn't do direct storage, it's still really useful to use that PCIe bandwidth that your GPU has access to, and then being able to use that storage for something and not wasting it. So AMD's limited run at Micro Center only 5600 X3D is going to be an interesting product for sure. And I am technically in driving distance of a Micro Center, so I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. I mean, they're going to be releasing basically when I release this video. So if you guys enjoyed this like news video, a little bit different from me, just kind of rambling off, and I just wanted to give a lot of my thoughts on these things. Some of this stuff is a little bit older. Just wanted to kind of release my energy. I want to talk about it, you know. These are cool. So let me know if you guys like this. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Y'all have a good one. Peace.